But in a situation where you find that look at this,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, we have in the studio Hamza Idris, General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, to review the stories that made the headlines this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Are you? Good morning, Hussein.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Now, let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper. The first story there, you would see ignorance, emotion threatening national unity. That's according to the Sultan. You'd find details of that on page 4. Electoral Act, what will guide us in replying Buhari's letter? The INEC is responding. So for details of that, you can grab a copy. They are saying that the interest of the public, that is national interest and democracy, will be their core pillars, to consider in responding to the president. Recall that he has sent to the INEC asking of their opinion, about direct primaries and all of that as regards the amendment in the Electoral Act. The lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper, COVID-19 Omicron. Buhari, 10 ministers jet out to Dubai. You'd also find the riders there. How Nigeria detected 3 cases. Ramaphosa's visit successful despite scare, and that's according to the president. FG's directive flops as unvaccinated workers access offices. You'd see the pictorial there showing you the initial barring of some of the federal civil service workers in the front of the Federal Secretariat yesterday. But from what we have gathered, they were only detained for a few minutes.
A few minutes, and then later on they're allowed into their workspaces.
All right, at the bottom of that, you would see also death toll in Kano boat tragedy rises to 29. And then at the very bottom, MTN begins road shows on 575 million shares. ISWAP abducts 6 Borno officials, and that's on page 13. Also, despite receiving millions monthly, FCT council chairs denied teachers' allowances, and that's on page 27. That's for the Daily Trust today.
All right, with that, we'll move on to Punch newspaper, and we have a story right at the top that says reps order audit of NNPC assets, liabilities, probe IOC's over 2.6 trillion naira debts, and you can find that on page 17. All right, we have another story here that says external reserves lost $610 million in November. CBN battles to save Naira. You can find that on page 17. Ramaphosa alleges South discrimination in South Africa. Others travel ban over Omicron. And you can find that story on page 2. Senate panel faults aviation minister over Nigerian Eagle operating license. And that particular story can be found on page 17. The lead here on the front page of the Punch newspaper says Omicron, Canada bars Nigerians, fear spreads as NCDC records 3 cases. We have some writers here. Variant detected in 3 persons with travel history to South Africa, says NCDC. Contact tracing never effective. Variants already in circulation, says virologists. And Africa accounts for only 4.3% of COVID-19 global fatalities, says ECOWAS. And more on that story can be found on page 2. We also have another story here that says government bars unvaccinated civil servants, military issues directive. And if you go to the bottom, you'll see resign before December 18. FIME tells appointees nursing gubernatorial ambition. And that story can be found on page 30. Lagos hoodlums hack NURTW boss at home. Wow, that is a really sad one. Shoot him dead in the hospital. And that story can be found on page 4 and 5. And the last story will be taken from the front page is 6.9 billion naira fraud. Fayoshe's ally deposited 209 million naira cash for property, says witness. And those are the stories on Punch newspaper.
All right. Let's take a look at the Nation, and there you would see the first story says Buhari to Ramaphosa, Nigeria, South Africa should end rivalry. So if you tie that with the whole xenophobic attacks that we've experienced in the past, you see that this is a discussion that needs to be had. And also you have NCDC confirms 3 cases of Omicron COVID-19 variant, and that's on page 31. UBA in African Bank. UBA is African Bank of the Year. Wiki, why Electoral Act bill should be signed. And also you'd see the lead story on the Nation says #EndSARS report, Lagos Defense White Paper. Also other writers there says Oyebode Ade Bonua, others kick. Prosecution of those indicted likely, says Malami. And then you would find also House wants 2.6 trillion naira debt by oil firms recovered. And at the bottom, or I would say rather below the pictorial, you'd see a story that says How to Foster National Unity by Kuka Fayemi Aremu. That's that for the Nation newspaper.
All right, we'll take the final newspaper, which is the Guardian newspaper. And the lead there says federal government forces COVID-19 jabs, workers plead for time. And some writers here that says ASCSN wants April date for unvaccinated workers lockout. NCDC confirms 3 cases of Omicron in Nigeria. Don't panic, vaccines still effective, NCDC tells Nigerians. WHO says Omicron now in 23 countries across the world. World Health Assembly to develop historic global accord on pandemic prevention and response. And we also have a story here that says Nigeria records 440,000 new cases of tuberculosis yearly. 29 die in Kano boat mishap, and that can be found on page 5. CAN charges government on killing of Christians in Zamfara by terrorists. And also task Buhari to sign new Electoral Act, Wiki tells media, and that story can be found on page 8. And the final story here is why we found NSAS panel's report unreliable, says Lagos AG, and details of that story will be found on page 2.
All right. Well, that's that for the stories that made the headlines. Now let's get perspectives on this. Once again, you're welcome to the program.
Good morning once again.
Thank you. All right, now the whole conversation about the COVID-19 pandemic scare is everywhere on our papers this morning. But, of more concern is how Nigerians are treated outside of Nigeria. The same case with South Africa when the South African president was raising alarm, over the, shutting down of borders, and he was saying that, look, this is unscientific and is unnecessary and all of that. What should we be doing?
We should do the right thing. Yes, it's good to travel. You should have cogent reasons to travel. And it is that our attitude in Africa, we love going abroad. Mm. Yes, you see, the case in South Africa, they were bold enough to say, yes, we have traced this, but it did not start it there. And I think that was why the president so angry that the West is trying to crucify South Africa and its neighbors. And that was partly responsible why, even though he planned to travel to many countries across Africa for other reasons, including bilateral relations, but he has been using that opportunity to call for action, to call for collaboration in order to deplete the effort of the West towards imposing a kind of sanctions, because if you restrict people from movement, if you restrict people from doing certain things, piloting their economy and all that, it will have bad consequences on the population. So that was why Ramaphosa, he thanked Nigeria, he thanked Senegal and other countries for standing by South Africa, saying he's very happy that they are with him. And President Buhari equally said, we will remain with you. You can see the president of the Africa Development Bank also said it was wrong for the West to, flag South Africa simply because they detected the new COVID-19 variant. So I see a lot of politics around it, and I see also political economy, around the COVID-19 thing. But we have to get our acts right. There are certain things that we must do. We thank God that Africa is not really hard hit by it. Up to now, less than 5% of the global figures. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another story, talking about the Electoral Act. We have Wiki and INEC, urging President Buhari to reply the letter and also sign, the act. What's your thoughts on this?
It is democracy at work. You can see before the signing of the electoral bill, yes, by the National Assembly, there was a lot of fireworks between legislators and governors. And it revolves around maybe 2 or 3 fundamental things, but key among them, the issue of direct primaries or indirect primaries and consensus. These are the 3 options recognized by law for political parties to select their candidates. But there were insinuations that the governors were more amenable to indirect primaries, whereby you will have delegates. And when you have delegates, they are easier to manage, they are easier to manipulate and all that. And there is tacit rivalry between governors and legislators. So the legislators tend to have or be favorably disposed to direct primaries, whereby almost all registered party members will come out and then select candidates. It is a bit difficult to manipulate that if you do it correctly, but Nigerians, the way we behave. But for the president, we know for a very long time he has been an advocate of direct primaries. He called it Kato Bayan Kato. Yeah, and more or less the A4 option, which was tried during Babangida. Now, INEC, which is supposed to advise the president. Yeah, it is in possession of his letter seeking for its input before he assent to it, which is very good. Yes, the president, what he did is fantastic for seeking expert advice of INEC. And then it cannot, INEC will not just respond overnight. They will also have to study it, look at what the political parties, have in their kitty, because you need to have a working register too. If not, you will end up causing serious chaos in the system. Because
so is it something that we hope to see, or do we stand a chance of strengthening democracy using this direct primary method?
Yes, meaning you are expanding the political space. Before, very few people, you select few people from the ward who will now elect leaders at the local government level. Then from there, you sift through, select some people who will now elect state officials and delegates. And then from there, those state delegates, they become emperors of sort, because you see them eagerly waiting for time for primaries, because they will become the fantastic brides for contestants. All contestants aspiring for governorship, for Senate, for House of Reps, House of Assembly. You see them, visiting the delegates. Exactly, visiting the delegates, and then on the D-Day, you see all of them scampering to, lodge them in 5-star hotels and all that, giving them a lot of money. But you can imagine if they said every party member has a stake in selecting candidate. How much will they spend? It's very huge. So it will open the political space. Politicians will do the right thing so that without prompting, without compromising the delegates or without compromising party members, the best candidate will emerge who will compete with the best candidate of other political parties. And at the end of the day, when you have the right people in the right place, you will see democracy at work.
Okay. Do you think introducing technology into the electoral process would actually work?
All over the world, but technology is the creation of man, right? No matter how perfect technology is, it needs the breathing space to succeed. And in Nigeria, we can manipulate every other thing. You know, there is this joke that, you know, a certain machine was invented. You know, it caught many thieves in China, it caught many thieves in US, it caught many thieves in Niger, but when it was brought to Nigeria, it was stolen. It was meant to, catch thieves, but when it was brought to Nigeria, before you know, it was stolen. It's a joke, but you know, it tells you how cunning our people are.
All right. Some have raised concern about the costs, you know, of running primary, direct primary, you know, elections. That it's going to put parties under pressure, and all of that. How true is that? And
honestly, if we get the formula right, I don't think so. Rather, it will reduce the spending, because when you have delegates, most of these delegates are already rich. So for you to say compromise them or something like that, you spend a lot of money. But by the time you say every party member will participate, who will you bribe? You understand? You will only promise to deliver services to the people. And Nigerians are law-abiding to greater extent. In most cases, they are being influenced by politicians who have ulterior motive in seeking for political offices. But for you to do it correctly, you need register. You get it. You need, all the political parties need to have a register, and we discussed this in one of our reviews in the newsroom. We said, look, there is the need for INEC to also play key role in this by using the available data, probably with the NBS, probably with banks, this BVN and all that, so that while registering members of political parties, you should take their thumbprint, you should have their details, so that, and you use technology very well, so that if I'm a member of, let's say, Party A, if I want to compromise to go and register with Party B, I should be able to be flagged down that, look, you are already a member of Party A. Because some people, because of the peanuts they may likely get, you see them registering with multiple political parties. And at the end of the day, we will make nonsense of the spirit behind having the all members participating
in electoral direct primaries. Do you think that is something that will encourage small political parties? By small, I mean
the banana parties will say.
Yes.
Ordinarily, it should. Yes, ordinarily it should. You know, one of the requirements of being a political party, you know, recognized by INEC is for you to have, one, your office in the Federal Capital Territory, and then representation across the 36 states of the Federation. Personally, I don't think if I will be able to give you the names of 10 political parties now, because many of them, they don't really make any impact. They don't have single representation, even at the state legislature. At the National Assembly, apart from APC, PDP, APGA and the Youth Party. There is no any other party with representation at the House of Representatives or the Senate. It's not good for democracy. But we think when you open up the political space, when you make contest cheaper, most likely people will go to other political parties, and based on their grassroots connection, based on their relationship with the people, you see them producing leaders, even at the local level. It's not necessary that every political party must have representation at the center, but they should have ideology. They should be able to make an impact, maybe even at the local government level. If you can succeed in a state to elect chairman in 5 local government areas, and then you have maybe advancing education or agriculture as your slogan, and you succeed in doing that at the local level, I can assure you that during the next round of election, you will likely have 10 local governments. Then later, you may have a senatorial zone, and at the end of the day, maybe in the geopolitical zone, we should be able to have 1 or 2 states.
Okay, let's move on to a story on page 27 of Daily Trust newspaper. And it says, despite receiving millions monthly, FCT council chairs deny teachers allowances. What do you have to say, regarding this and the education sector in the country?
Yes, they called off the strike they embarked on yesterday, but here in the Daily Trust, we went deep into the story, to unravel some of the circumstances that necessitated the strike. And what we uncovered was that the 6 area councils, they receive over 9 billion between January and June from the Federation account. This is besides what they generated at the council level. And what are they supposed to do? They are so lucky that these 6 area councils, they are under the Federal Capital Territory. So in most instances, major projects, are being taken care of by the Federal Capital Development Authority. So for them is to take care of these minor issues, especially salary of primary school teachers, salary of healthcare workers in cottage hospitals and all that. But they failed to do this. We contacted them, we spoke with them. In fact, as the time we were putting the story, 3 of the chairmen were in Dubai. What are they doing in Dubai? So the workers are so angry, but at the instance of the senator representing the FCT and then the FCT minister, the workers said, okay, we'll come back to work, because they gave a commitment that we will force Algon, which is the umbrella body of the chairman of the 6 area councils, to settle these people who take care of our children. They take care of children of the poor in the primary school. But why can't you pay them? How much is the salary? How much is the allowance? But they agree to pay. But we will remain on the story to make sure that they are paid their allowances.
Now, we've seen education being attacked, on different fronts, by bandits, ASU strike and everything, talking about ASU and all that. Would you say Nigeria really takes education seriously?
Not really. I have my doubts, because if you look at the commitment to education, the percentage we allocate from the national budget is quite insignificant, yes. And then, but we should understand that piloting education, taking care of education at all levels is not cheap, and it requires collaboration among governments at the 3 levels, companies and all that. We have a story that about 77 oil companies, they refuse to remit taxes, among them education tax. And these monies are meant to be, channeled into, a big pool so that you now distribute it to universities, secondary school, and it should also trickle down to primary school so that you conduct research, you provide instruction materials, you provide enabling environment, and then you recruit competent teachers. If you don't have resources, you will not be able to do this. And I can assure you that more than 80% of teachers that we have at all levels, including universities, if they get greener pasture, they will depart. They will move on because what they are being paid is not commensurate with the effort they put. And they are also human. They want to take care of their families. They want to have good houses to live in. They want to have access to health and all that. And any country that did not give the desired attention to education, that country is doomed.
Okay. All right, well, we have to end the review here. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your perspectives with us on the program. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here and I hope to come again.
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right.
But in a situation where you find that they must look at the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that